Let's be blunt. Modern dating is a failed economy. It promises connection but delivers burnout. It runs on the currency of our time, our money, and our hope, and the market has been in a recession for a decade. If you've deleted the apps, stopped swiping, and feel a quiet sense of relief, you haven't given up. You've liquidated a bad investment. Society will call you cynical. Your friends might call you picky. But your nervous system calls you intelligent. It has correctly identified a system that is rigged for failure and has initiated a full withdrawal of assets. This isn't a feeling, it's a calculation. The average dating app user spends 90 minutes a day on these platforms. That's over 10 hours a week spent on what has become an unpaid second job. A job with no benefits, a hostile work environment, and a high probability of being fired without notice, an act we now call ghosting. Add to this the financial cost, the subscriptions, the expensive first dates. You are paying to be exhausted. The decision to stop is not emotional, it is economical. You have run a cost-benefit analysis on your own well-being and concluded that the price of admission is too high. The peace you find in your own company isn't loneliness, it is profit. It is the surplus of energy, time, and money you get back when you stop pouring it into a system designed to drain you. This isn't a retreat, it is a boycott. This doesn't just show up in relationships. It shows up in how you work and how you rest. You find yourself watching your own mouth move, saying the right things in a conversation you've had 100 times, thinking about the time, the cost of the meal, the energy you're spending. You feel a quiet internal sigh, not boredom, just depletion. You've already run the numbers on this interaction. You know how this particular exchange ends up. Another transaction, another layer of cost. Ground beneath your own feet, it's covered in centuries of romantic expectations. Society laid out a map, date, partner, marry. A linear path, a clear progression. Everyone follows it, right? Except the map is wrong. It's a falsified chronology, filled with missing chapters. Entire epics of human experience simply erased. What I wonder is if you didn't fail to follow the script. Perhaps the script was never truly yours to begin with. The historical record of love you were given, incomplete. Fabricated. It skipped the parts about widespread exhaustion. It ignored the footnotes on emotional injuries. It left out the sheer, crushing weight of trying to dig for something that isn't there. What I've noticed this tends to cost, in ways that aren't always obvious, is your time, your energy, your hope. You poured it into this. The apps, the dates, the emotional labor. It became an unpaid second job. A job that constantly fired you, then rehired you, then ghosted you again. You felt the cost. Specifically, a dull ache in your chest after another fruitless evening. And this one is harder to say, for reasons I'm still working out. That's the feeling of accumulated emotional debris. Suffocating, which is, objectively, a lot of energy to spend on something that didn't mean anything significant. But you know how this goes. When you've been doing this long enough, the choice to keep going fades. It becomes less about finding something, more about the sheer momentum of the pattern. The pattern continues, not by conscious will, but by the momentum of cultural expectation. And part of you, perhaps, has simply stopped asking if it still needs to move. I'm aware this is a lot of words to describe what is, at its core, just a very human Tuesday. But underneath the surface, there's something harder. A deep, distinct geological stratum. This isn't just memory. This is hardened earth. Past romantic rejections, betrayals. The moments where connection felt less like a bridge and more like a fall. There's something I came across that I keep thinking about in this context. We've unearthed something profound in how the body responds to emotional pain. What the research tends to suggest in the deepest layers of human experience is this. The inner alarm system, acting like a geological fault line, tends not to just register the impact. It often shifts. It hardens. The finding, in its simplest terms, suggests that repeated romantic rejection or emotional injury can be processed by the brain as physical agony. The body often learns. It tends to build new layers, protective layers, not through conscious choice but as a survival instinct. And if you've ever felt that deep, unyielding wall inside you, that dismissive coolness, that fierce hyperindependence, I don't know if this is exactly right, but the more I look at it, it feels less like cynicism or an error in your design, and more like hardened, self-preserving bedrock. A defense your body built, layer by unyielding layer, against what once felt like a burning stove. This protective pattern was built by the circumstances. It was an intelligent response to what happened. But the pattern is still running. The threat in many ways has changed. Yet the old habit is still in charge. You can't dismantle it by sheer will, but you can start asking in a quiet moment if it still needs to be this way. And the absurdity of it, you keep going. And this is the part that I've thought about how to say this. I still don't have the version that does it exactly right. But here's the closest I've come to describing what we keep finding in the deepest strata of romantic memory. The butterflies in your stomach, the racing pulse, the nervous excitement. We've always been told this is a sign of love, of attraction, the spark. What I keep seeing is these may not be signs of love in the way we've been taught. Instead, they often appear to be the fossilized remains of an ancient stress response, a preserved physiological alarm. Your body specifically seems to be telling you, danger ahead. What if you're not feeling excitement but rather the echo of past warning signals? A primal, precognitive alert from deep within your own personal archeological record. It's as if your inner alarm system in the present is bracing for a repeat of a dangerous historical pattern. You might have thought it was romance. It was just your body saying, brace. So what do you do with this excavation? You begin to deconstruct the traditional monument to romance, not because you hate connection or because you've become hardened, but because the monument itself was built on unstable, painful strata. Its foundations were never solid. You're not tearing down the possibility of connection. You're simply refusing to build on faulty ground. This isn't abandoning connection. This is an active dismantling, a deliberate choice for internal safety. You are decentering romance from the absolute core of your existence. You are lowering the internal stress that once masqueraded as excitement. You are prioritizing tranquility. You are investing in your own well-being. This is a profound reorientation. The result, a pristine, unexcavated emotional landscape. A quiet, inner sight where you can exist without the constant pressure to find something. This is not isolation. This is the careful curation of your most valuable asset, your own peace. It's the quiet after the shovel stops hitting rock. This happens most often on ordinary evenings. You're probably just making tea or scrolling, and the quiet is suddenly, profoundly different. If something here landed, sit with it for longer than feels comfortable. That's the whole ask. You'll probably do this tomorrow, not because you don't understand it now, but because understanding and doing are two very different speeds. The old habits run deep, but you're the only one in a position to notice it. That's not burden. That's actually the only real place this changes. And here's the thing I don't have an answer to. What are you protecting exactly that you haven't let yourself look at directly? The excavation is over. Your ground is finally yours.